Black mechanic fixes stranger's car for free, next day he gets the shock of his life. Before we dive in, kindly hit the subscribe button and let us know where you are watching from in the comments. Rain had a way of making the city honest. It slicked the streets, dulled the neon, and pushed people to reveal who they really were when the engine stalled and patience ran out. That night, Williams Reed stood under a flickering streetlight with grease on his hands and doubt in his chest, closing up the small garage he'd inherited from his father. The sign above the bay door was chipped, the letters faded, but the name still mattered to him. Reed and Son. Even though the son was the only one left. Williams had learned early what it meant to be underestimated. Customers spoke over him, inspectors nitpicked his work, and the new dealership down the street called his place a relic. He worked twice as hard for half the recognition, fixing cars others refused to touch, keeping families on the road when the bills were already stacked too high. That night, as he locked up, a luxury sedan rolled to a stop across the street, hazard lights blinking like a quiet cry for help. The man who stepped out wore confidence like a tailored coat. Clean shoes, expensive watch, irritation etched across his face. He looked at Williams the way people looked at things they planned to replace. "My car died," the stranger said, glancing at the dark garage. "I need it running. Now." Williams felt the familiar heat rise, pride wrestling survival. "I'm closed," he replied, steady. "But let me take a look." The stranger scoffed. "You sure you can handle it?" The words landed heavy, soaked with assumption. Still, Williams popped the hood. The problem was obvious once you listened long enough. A failing sensor choking the engine, a simple fix if you knew where to look. The part was cheap. The labor took minutes. Williams worked in silence while rain ticked on metal. When the engine turned over, smooth as forgiveness, the stranger's surprise flickered into suspicion. "How much?" he asked, already pulling out his wallet. Williams shook his head. "No charge. It's late. Get home safe." The man hesitated, then smirked. "Must be nice to give charity." He drove off without another word, tires spraying water like punctuation. Williams watched the taillights fade, unsure why his chest felt lighter and heavier at the same time. He locked the garage and walked home, unaware that generosity has a way of circling back with teeth. By morning, the city buzzed with a different kind of rain, rumors. A corporate convoy rolled through the neighborhood, black BMWs swallowing the curb. People peered from doorways as men in suits surveyed the block, measuring shadows. Williams arrived at the garage to find a notice taped to his door. Code violations. Environmental complaints. A temporary closure effective immediately. His stomach dropped. He called the number listed, only to be routed through polite voices and dead ends. When he finally reached someone, the answer came clipped and cold. "An inspection was ordered," the voice said. "Complaints were filed." "By who?" Williams asked. "Confidential." Across the street, the dealership's glass walls reflected his confusion. He knew power when he saw it. And he knew when it was being flexed. The next day, a black sedan pulled up again. The same stranger stepped out, flanked by two men with identical smiles. "Williams Reed," he said, like tasting a name. "I'm Victor Theodore. I own half the property on this block." Williams felt the pieces click, sharp and sudden. "You filed the complaints." Victor shrugged. "Your operation is informal. Bad for business." He leaned closer. "Sell. I'll make it painless." The offer was insulting, numbers that erased a legacy. Williams looked at the garage, at the oil stains his father never bothered to clean because they meant work had been done. "No." Victor's smile thinned. "You fixed my car for free. Consider this repayment." That night, Williams sat alone, the garage dark, the weight of the city pressing down. Then his phone buzzed. An email from an unknown sender. A video attachment. The subject line read, "You deserve to see this." The footage showed Victor's sedan from the night before, idling outside a private club. The camera angle was low, intimate. The audio caught a voice, Victor's, boasting about forcing small businesses out, about inspectors who owed him favors, about how easy it was to clean a block. It was damning. Clear. Unmistakable. The email included a message. "Your kindness didn't go unnoticed. I was in the car when you fixed it. I heard everything. I'm tired of watching men like him crush people who work for real." Williams's pulse thundered. The city had been listening after all. By morning, the story broke like a storm. Headlines screamed corruption. Inspectors were suspended. Victor Theodore's name trended for all the wrong reasons. The convoy disappeared. The notice on Williams's door vanished. City officials arrived, not with threats, but with apologies. Victor tried to call. Williams didn't answer. A week later, the garage reopened to a line of cars stretching down the block. Old customers returned with tears and thanks. New ones came because justice feels contagious when it finally shows up. Williams worked until his hands ached, pride blooming where fear had lived. Late that evening, as he closed up, a familiar engine purred outside. Not Victor's. This one was rougher, older. A woman stepped out, eyes steady. "You don't know me," she said. "But I know you." She handed Williams a folder. Inside were documents, land deeds, court filings, a map of the block with one property circled in red. "Victor didn't own half this street," she said. "He lied. But he does own that building. And tomorrow, it goes to auction." Williams looked up, heart pounding. "Why are you telling me this?" She smiled, small and knowing. "Because the man you helped didn't just need his car fixed. He needed someone to believe he wasn't invisible." She paused at the door. "Be ready. Power doesn't disappear. It just changes hands." As her taillights faded, Williams stood alone under the streetlight, the city holding its breath. The folder felt heavy with possibility and danger. Somewhere in the dark, Victor Theodore was plotting his next move. And Williams Reed was about to learn that justice, once awakened, never comes quietly. The city didn't celebrate Williams Reed's quiet victory the way movies pretend it does. There were no parades, no music swelling in the background. Justice came the way it usually does for people like him, subtle, conditional, and always watching to see if you'd stumble after your first step forward. The line outside Reed & Son Auto Repair grew longer each day, but so did the stairs. Curiosity mixed with suspicion. People wanted to see if the underdog would fall back into place. Williams felt it the moment he unlocked the garage each morning. The air was different. Respect had crept in, but it came hand in hand with expectation. Folks whispered about the man who stood up to Victor Theodore and lived to tell it. Some called him brave. Others called him reckless. Williams didn't feel like either. He felt tired. And alert. The folder the woman had given him sat locked in his office drawer, heavy as a loaded weapon. Inside were documents that could change his life, or end it. The auction notice alone made his hands shake. The building circled in red wasn't just any property. It housed the dealership across the street, the glass palace that had mocked his grease-stained floors for years. If Williams could get it, he wouldn't just survive, he'd control the block Victor once claimed as his own. But power never leaves without a fight. 2 days before the auction, Williams noticed the black BMW parked down the street. Engine running. Windows tinted. It wasn't subtle, and it wasn't coincidence. He pretended not to see it, wiping his hands on a rag while his chest tightened. By closing time, the BMW was gone. The message remained. That night, his phone rang from a blocked number. "You cost me millions," Victor Theodore's voice purred through the speaker, calm and familiar, like a man ordering his favorite drink. "Do you know how rare that is?" Williams said nothing. "You embarrassed me," Victor continued. "You let strangers believe I bleed like them." A pause. "That can't go unanswered." "You did this to yourself," Williams replied, his voice steadier than he felt. Victor laughed softly. "You think this is over because the city turned on me? I built that city. I know where the bones are buried." His tone sharpened. "Walk away from that auction. That's my last kindness." The call ended. William stared at the phone, his reflection staring back, older, harder. He remembered fixing that car in the rain, remembered choosing kindness when pride would have been easier. He wondered how many people Victor had crushed who never got a second call, never got a warning. The thought settled something inside him. He wasn't walking away. The day of the auction arrived wrapped in tension. The room was filled with sharp suits and sharper smiles, men who smelled opportunity the way sharks smell blood. William sat near the back, his worn jacket a quiet protest. He felt out of place, and exactly where he needed to be. Bidding started low, then climbed fast. Numbers flew like punches. Williams raised his paddle when his turn came, every bid a reminder of how thin his margin was. He wasn't backed by corporations or private equity. He was backed by years of honest work and a loan that could ruin him if he failed. Then the doors opened. Victor Theodore walked in like a storm that refused to be forecasted. No entourage. No smile. Just eyes burning with something close to admiration, and something far worse. He took a seat in the front row and lifted his paddle. The room shifted. Bids doubled. Then tripled. Williams felt the ground slip. Victor wasn't here to win. He was here to punish. To remind everyone watching that power doesn't forgive, it retaliates. Williams hit his limit. His paddle hovered in the air, his heartbeat loud enough to drown the auctioneer's voice. If he bid again, he'd be risking everything, his garage, his home, his father's legacy. If he stopped, Victor would win, and the message would be clear. Then a voice rang out. Calm. Female. "I'll take the next bid." Heads turned. The woman from the streetlight stood near the aisle, posture relaxed, eyes unafraid. She named a number that silenced the room. Victor turned slowly, his face tightening. The auctioneer stammered, then continued. Williams watched in disbelief as the woman went bid for bid with Victor, her confidence unshaken. She wasn't bluffing. She was hunting. When the hammer finally fell, the room exhaled. The woman had won. Victor stood abruptly, chair scraping loud enough to echo. His eyes locked onto Williams, then flicked back to the woman. "Enjoy it," he said coldly. "Ownership doesn't mean safety." He left without another word. Outside, the woman found Williams leaning against a brick wall, the weight of almost losing, and almost winning, crashing down on him. "You didn't have to do that," he said. She nodded. "I know. Why help me?" She studied him for a moment. "Because men like Victor thrive when good people stay small. And because this block doesn't need another tyrant. It needs a guardian." She introduced herself as Naomi Reagan. Former city attorney. Fired for asking the wrong questions. Victor had been one of them. Over the next weeks, the block transformed. The dealership's glass walls came down. The building reopened as a cooperative workspace. Mechanics, tradesmen, small business owners locked out of opportunity finally getting a seat at the table. Williams didn't become rich overnight. He became something rarer, respected. But Victor wasn't finished. Anonymous complaints resumed. Suppliers backed out. A fire inspector shut the garage down for safety concerns. Each time, William fought back with paperwork and patience, but the attacks chipped away. He slept less. Watched more. The BMW returned, this time closer. One evening, William stayed late, inventory spread across his desk. The power cut without warning. The garage plunged into darkness. Footsteps echoed. William reached for his phone. No signal. A flashlight snapped on, blinding him. A man stepped forward, not Victor, but someone younger, colder. "Mr. Reed," he said. "My boss sends his regards." Before William could move, another figure appeared behind him. He felt the pressure of something hard against his back. "Victor Theodore doesn't lose," the man whispered. "He delays." William swallowed, heart hammering. Across the street, unnoticed in the dark, a car idled. Inside, Naomi Reagan watched the garage with narrowed eyes, phone pressed to her ear. "They've made their move," she said quietly. "Send everything. Now." As William was forced toward the shadows of his own shop, sirens wailed faintly in the distance, or maybe it was his imagination. The men tightened their grip. And somewhere in the city, Victor Theodore smiled, certain the board had finally tilted back in his favor. The lights stayed off. The door slammed shut. And William Reed disappeared into the dark, leaving the city to wonder whether justice had been served too soon. Darkness has a sound when it closes in on you. It hums low, presses against your ears, makes every breath feel louder than it should. William Reed felt it the moment the garage door slammed shut behind him. The familiar smell of oil and metal turned hostile, like a place he loved no longer recognized him. Hands shoved him forward. His knees hit concrete. Pain flared, sharp and honest. "Easy," the younger man said, the one with the dead eyes. "We don't want you broken." "Not yet." William tasted blood and iron. His mind raced, cataloging mistakes, exits, anything he could turn into leverage. He thought of his father's voice, "Never panic. Panic wastes time." He forced his breathing to slow. "What does Victor want?" William asked. The man laughed. "Still asking questions. That's why you're a problem." The flashlight beam swung around the garage, illuminating half-finished cars, tools hanging like silent witnesses. The second man circled William, boots crunching over gravel. "You were supposed to stay small," he said. "Fix engines. Mind your business. But you wanted to be a symbol." "I didn't ask for that," William replied. "No one ever does," the younger man said. "They just earn it." Across town, Victor Theodore sat in a dimly lit office, the city stretched beneath him like a conquered map. The scandal had cost him contracts, allies, patience, but not his network. He swirled a glass of whiskey, eyes fixed on the security feed playing silently on his wall. A grainy image of William's garage filled the screen. "Still standing," Victor murmured. "Stubborn men always think that's strength." His phone buzzed. "It's done," the voice said. Victor smiled, thin and satisfied. "Good. Bring him to the place we discussed." Back in the garage, William felt the cold kiss of handcuffs snap around his wrists. They hauled him to his feet, steering him toward a back door he'd installed years ago to comply with fire codes. The irony didn't escape him. As they pushed him into the night, sirens wailed closer now, real this time. One of the men cursed. "Change of plans," the younger one said. "Move." They shoved William into the back of a van. The door slammed. Darkness returned, thicker than before. The engine roared to life. William closed his eyes, grounding himself. He thought of Naomi, of the cooperative, of the people who'd trusted him with more than cars. He wondered if this was the price of becoming visible. The van stopped. When the doors opened, cold air rushed in. They were somewhere abandoned, an old warehouse by the river, rusted and forgotten. The men dragged him inside, past broken windows and graffiti warnings no one heeded. Victor Theodore waited at the center of the cavernous space, coat immaculate, hands clasped like a man about to give a speech. He dismissed the others with a nod. "Leave us." The men hesitated, then obeyed. Victor stepped closer, studying William the way a collector studies a cracked artifact. "Do you know what bothers me most about you?" he asked. "It's not the defiance. It's the way people look at you now. Like you're proof." William met his gaze. "Proof of what?" "That the system can be beaten," Victor said softly. "That's dangerous." Victor circled him. "I offered you a way out. You chose war." "I chose dignity," William replied. Victor chuckled. "Same thing, different marketing." He leaned in. "Here's the truth no one tells you. Power doesn't care about justice. It only cares about balance. And right now, you've tipped the scale." Victor snapped his fingers. The younger man returned, holding a phone. He showed William the screen, footage of the cooperative space, lights off, police tape fluttering. "Electrical fire," Victor said casually. "Tragic. No casualties, thankfully. But enough damage to scare investors." William's chest tightened. "You burned it down." Victor shrugged. "I corrected an imbalance." Sirens echoed outside the warehouse, growing louder. Victor frowned. "That would be Naomi," he said. "Persistent woman." He nodded to the man. "Take him to the car." But before they could move, a crash thundered through the warehouse doors. Floodlights blazed. Shouts filled the air. "Police! Hands where we can see them!" Chaos erupted. The younger man bolted. Victor stepped back, fury flashing across his face. William felt hands grabbing him again, but this time, pulling him toward the light. Naomi burst through the door, badge raised, eyes locked on William. "I told you," she shouted. "Power changes hands." Victor slipped away in the confusion, disappearing through a side exit like a shadow that refused to die. Minutes later, William sat on the hood of a patrol car, cuffs removed, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like someone else's safety. Naomi stood beside him, jaw clenched. "He got away," she said. William nodded. "He always does." Naomi handed him her phone. "Look." On the screen was a live news feed. Victor Theodore's face filled it, standing at a podium, reporters crowding around him. "My name has been dragged through the mud," Victor was saying, voice polished. "But I believe in due process. I believe in the system." The headline scrolled beneath him, "Victor Theodore announces run for city office." William laughed once, hollow. "He's not running," he said. "He's rebranding." Naomi exhaled slowly. "Which means this isn't over." Days passed. William returned to the garage, reopening under watchful eyes. The community rallied harder than before. Donations poured in. Volunteers helped rebuild the cooperative. On the surface, it looked like victory. But William felt the tension beneath it all. Victor's name was everywhere now, campaign signs, interviews, promises wrapped in language people wanted to believe. He spoke about opportunity. About fairness. About rebuilding trust. The same man. A different mask. One night, William found an envelope slipped under his garage door. No return address. Inside was a photograph. His father. Taken years ago. Standing outside the garage. On the back, a single line was written. "Some legacies don't belong to you." William's hands shook. His phone buzzed immediately after. Blocked number. He answered. Victor's voice flowed through, calm as ever. You see now, he said. This isn't about cars. Or buildings. It's about history. What do you want? William asked. Victor paused. I want you to choose. The line went dead. William stood alone in the garage, surrounded by machines that obeyed logic, by tools that did what they were meant to do. People were harder. Power was crueler. Outside, a campaign bus rolled past, Victor Theodore's smiling face plastered across the side. William clenched his fists, knowing the final fight wouldn't be in the shadows anymore. It would be public. And someone would lose everything. As the lights flickered overhead, William realized the question wasn't whether he could beat Victor Theodore. It was whether the city was ready to see who Victor really was. And whether William Reed was ready to become something far more dangerous than an underdog. The city was loud when lies were being told. Campaign season had wrapped itself around every streetlight and bus stop, Victor Theodore's face smiling down with practiced warmth. A new future. A fair city. The words followed William Reed everywhere, on the radio in customer cars, on billboards he passed walking home, even in the waiting room of the clinic where his neighbor sat praying for affordable care. William felt like he was living inside a bad joke. He knew the man behind the smile. He'd seen the cruelty up close, felt it in bruises that hadn't fully faded and in businesses that would never reopen. And yet the city applauded. Power didn't need to be innocent. It just needed to be convincing. The envelope with his father's photo stayed on William's desk, a silent threat. Victor hadn't sent it to scare him into silence. He'd sent it to remind him that the past could be rewritten too. That even memory wasn't safe. Naomi Reagan understood that kind of warfare. They're shaping a story, she said one night, standing in the garage office while rain tapped the windows like impatient fingers. If we don't interrupt it, it becomes truth. William leaned back, exhaustion pulling at his bones. I already tried exposing him. It didn't end him. Naomi nodded. Because we showed corruption. Not motive. People forgive corruption when it benefits them. So what do we show? William asked. Naomi slid a flash drive across the desk. We show intent. We show that this campaign was built on destruction. And we let Victor do what he does best, overplay his hand. Inside the flash drive was everything Naomi had been collecting for years. Shell companies. Property grabs disguised as revitalization. Fires labeled as accidents. Inspectors paid to look the other way. And buried deep within it all was the name Reed and Son, circled again and again, proof that Victor had targeted William long before the night his car broke down. He didn't meet you by chance, Naomi said quietly. He chose you. William stared at the screen, anger settling into something colder, sharper. Then I won't hide anymore. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Victor Theodore announced a televised town hall, billed as a chance to listen to the people. Naomi smiled when she heard it. He wants control, she said. Let's give him an audience. The night of the town hall, the auditorium buzzed with anticipation. Supporters filled the front rows, critics scattered further back. Cameras hovered like vultures. Victor took the stage to applause, his voice smooth, practiced. He spoke about unity. About second chances. About lifting communities that had been left behind. William watched from the aisle, heart pounding, every nerve alive. He wore no suit, no disguise. Just a clean shirt and hands that had built something real. When the moderator opened the floor for questions, Naomi squeezed William's arm. Now. William stepped forward. The room shifted. Murmurs rippled as people recognized him, the mechanic from the news, the man who'd survived Victor Theodore. Cameras turned. Victor's smile faltered for half a second. Just enough. Yes, Victor said smoothly. You, sir. William took the microphone. His voice carried, steady and clear. My name is William Reed, he said. You shut down my business. You tried to buy my silence. And when that didn't work, you tried to erase me. The room went quiet. Victor sighed, shaking his head like a disappointed teacher. I don't know this man, he said. But I'm sorry for whatever hardship he's faced. William nodded. That's what you're counting on. Forgetting. He gestured to the screen behind Victor. Naomi hit play. The footage rolled. Victor's voice filled the auditorium, the same recording from outside the club, but longer this time, clearer. He bragged about burning blocks down, about forcing owners out, about controlling inspectors. Gasps erupted. Victor turned, color draining from his face. That's doctored, Victor snapped, panic breaking through the polish. The screen changed. Documents flashed, timestamps, signatures, payments. Fires linked to properties Victor later acquired. Including the cooperative space. Including Reed and Son. William leaned into the microphone. You didn't just hurt me. You hurt families. You hurt a city. Victor lunged for the microphone, shouting, "This is a setup." Security moved in. The crowd erupted, some angry, some stunned, some cheering. But Victor wasn't finished. He laughed suddenly, loud and sharp. You think this ends me? He shouted. I am this city. The words echoed, ugly and honest. And that's when Naomi stepped forward, holding up her phone. Actually, she said, voice cutting through the chaos, this ends tonight. She tapped the screen. A live alert appeared across every broadcast, every phone streaming the event. Breaking news, warrant issued for Victor Theodore, federal investigation confirms extensive racketeering and arson scheme. The room exploded. Victor froze. Sirens wailed outside, not distant this time, but right at the doors. Victor backed away, eyes locked on Williams, hatred burning through the fear. You think you won? He hissed. William met his gaze. No, he said. I think the city finally sees you. Federal agents poured in, cuffs ready. Victor was grabbed, shouting, cursing, his mask completely gone. As they dragged him away, Victor twisted back toward William. This isn't over, he snarled. Men like me don't disappear. William didn't answer. He didn't need to. The aftermath hit like a slow wave. Charges piled up. Properties seized. Names named. The city reeled, embarrassed, furious, awake. Streets once hollowed out began to breathe again. Reed and Son Auto Repair became something bigger than William ever intended. A training ground. A symbol. A place where young men and women learned trades, and learned they weren't disposable. William was offered awards, interviews, platforms. He declined most of them. He stayed where he belonged, grease on his hands, future wide open. One evening, long after the headlines faded, William closed the garage and stood under the same flickering streetlight where it all began. Naomi joined him, hands in her coat pockets. You changed the balance, she said. William shook his head. The city did. I just refused to disappear. Naomi smiled. That's how it starts. William looked down the block, at rebuilt storefronts, at kids laughing, at light where there used to be fear. Then his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He frowned, answered. Silence. Then a familiar voice, calm and amused. You did well, Victor Theodore said. William's blood ran cold. You're in prison. Victor chuckled softly. Power doesn't always live where the body does. The line went dead. William stared into the night, understanding settling heavy in his chest. Justice had been served. But the fight? The fight had only changed shape. And somewhere behind concrete walls and locked doors, Victor Theodore was still watching, waiting, for the city to forget again.